Apparently, Sony PlayStation Japan is going to have its very own PlayStation mini title exclusive. Let's find out. What's up everybody, it's 𝐒𝐲 bringing you the awesomeness of today and beyond. By now, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard the news that Sony is going to get into the mini classic market. And it's all thanks to Nintendo and their success with the SNES and the NES Mini Classic Edition. Now, it's not just Sony, but also Sega is getting into the market and they're also doing their own mini version. But let's talk about Sony because this is very interesting about Sony. Now, Sony, when it comes to their title for their choices of games, it's mediocre. It's, I mean, there are some games that are interesting when I saw the list that they have provided, and there are some games that I'm like, they shouldn't even be there in the first place. But there are some games that caught me off by surprise, such as Shin Megami Tensei Persona Revelation. That caught me off by surprise, because that game, I would never expected something like that to be in the mini classic. Shin Megami Tensei Revelation is not exactly one of those titles that wowed the PlayStation graphics. It's a great game. I'm not saying it's bad. It's actually a great game and it's a great choice by Sony, because to me the only reason I would put titles such as Tomb Raider, for example, is because Sony, the PlayStation, reminds me about the power and the raw power of the 32-bit era, where it's all 3D graphics, and Tomb Raider is the very first thing that comes to my mind, and so is Crash Bandicoot, and likewise with Resident Evil, which I'm glad that they actually put Resident Evil Director's Cut, so it's not the first one, but it's Resident Evil Director's Cut. It would have been nice if they put in Resident Evil 2, but Resident Evil Director's Cut is not bad. But other than that, the other games that they put in are just bland. They're not that great. However, it is very interesting that Sony PlayStation of Japan are going to have their own exclusive titles. And some of these titles, honestly, I kind of question what was Sony thinking. So let me go ahead and read you some of the titles that they're going to have, and this is only exclusive to the Sony PlayStation of Japan. So they're going to be getting Ark the Lad 1 and 2, Armored Core, Gradius Gaiden, Zai, Saga Frontier, excuse me, G Darius, and finally, my favorite game, Parasite Eve. Wow, Sony, what were you thinking? I mean, sure, they have some good titles, but the Japan exclusive titles is far better than the US variant, in my opinion. Now, I do understand that you guys are gonna be like, oh, but you can go ahead and put in, your own emulators, just like what we did with the SNES and the NES Mini. Yes, I get that, but you have to understand this is stock ROMs coming directly from Sony, just like how you have stock ROMs of the NES and SNES coming directly from Nintendo. When I'm looking at that list, there are some games, even I agree with other people that say that the list that we got isn't the greatest. Like, for example, some of the games that is a meh, in my opinion, would have to be Tom Clancy Rainbow. I mean, I would Siphon Filter is fine, but there's really no need for Tom Clancy. The other would have to be, is a puzzle game, is Mr. Driller and Cool Borders 2. Like, there are, and Intelligent Cube as well. I don't know, like, there are all the other games that Sony has placed into the list are great, but there was no need for these games. They could have easily put in Tomb Raider or Crash Bandicoot. If it was to me to go ahead and pick up some games, Tomb Raider would be definitely on my list in that game, because that is one of the games that just literally wowed the graphics of the PlayStation. It showed the powerhouse. Same thing with Crash Bandicoot. Other games, in my opinion, that if Sony was to go ahead and pick games like Shin Megami Tensei, they should have picked up Tenchu. I mean, Tenchu, I remember playing this game, and when I saw like how it was one hell of an adventure platform stealth, like similar to Metal Gear, but a ninja base. This game literally just wowed me with the PlayStation graphics and the capabilities that the PlayStation had. So if it was for me to go and pick up the games, it would be this to be on the PlayStation. The other games I would have to say would be a game changer in my opinion. I would put in like Omega Boost, for example, a really great shoot 'em up, and that is one hell of a beautiful game on the PlayStation. It just looks amazing. Another would be, let's see, top of my head is Silent Hill. That's a no-brainer. And why not? Why not this? Tales of Concentra. Why not this? You know, and that's what I'm saying. I mean, look, Sony probably decided to study on the list for both North America and Japan. It's just that when you look at Japan getting Parasite Eve, Armored Core, Darius, and so on, it's I'm just confused. Like, why Japan gets the better titles and the US and the UK, we don't exactly get the best titles. I mean, yes, I do understand that we can go ahead and take the Sony and mod it, put in more ROMs. We've done this with the Mini. It's out there. It's just that these are the titles coming directly from Sony. So it's very mid-core. Would I go out of my way and actually get the PlayStation Mini Classic? It's debatable. I'm not saying it's not. It's very debatable. Like, I don't mind getting the PlayStation Classic because I love nostalgia. I love, you know, little stuff from what Nintendo has done. And if something's coming from Sony, I mean, sure, why not? Actually, you know what? I might not even bother getting it. After doing more reading into it, and yes, everybody has talked about the PlayStation Classic. One of the things that a lot of people have failed to mention is this, and this is coming from recently, and that is Sony of PlayStation have finally acknowledged that what they're using on their mini console is an actual emulator based on the emulator that we've been playing on PC for a very long time. That is a big deal, and the reason it's a big deal is because here's a big company, Sony, that acknowledges the work of an amateur making an emulator. That's a big deal. That is a big deal. So you're kind of wondering, you already have the emulator, we've all used it, and it's there, and Sony acknowledges that, and it's actually using that in their minis. You know, it kind of brings back a lot of the old case with Bleem. If you don't know what Bleem is a emulator. Well, back in the 90s, it was a huge emulator, and there was a lawsuit between Bleem and Sony. Sure, Bleem won the lawsuit, but at what cost? Like, they spent so much money on their lawyers, and they just lost it. And Sony just went in and went ahead to use the emulation. I mean, it's within their rights, sure. It's just that I have always figured that Sony would go ahead and make something out of their own, but if at least, you know, since somebody else made it, it would be nice if Sony would go ahead and give credit where credit is due, and acknowledge these guys and their hard work. And I don't think the whole Bleem situation shouldn't have even happened in the first place. So would you spend on that? I mean, I wouldn't mind spending, because I like how it looks as the shell case. You know, I'm all up for collection, but it's one of those things. Even making this video, I'm debating like whether I should get it or not. It's I don't know, man. I really don't know. But if I am gonna be getting, for me, I'll probably aim for the Japan PlayStation Mini, because in my opinion it has far better titles than the US and UK variant, because both the US and UK variant are the exact same thing, whereas Japan is its own world. And speaking of PlayStation, I've been recently streaming on Twitch, You know, Twitch has been an amazing experience, and you know what? Let me go ahead and show you a small clip because since we're talking about retro and we're talking about the PlayStation, I've been playing Resident Evil 2, a knife-only game. Let's go ahead and roll that clip. Check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oops. One. Yes! Oh! 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 We did it! Beat it! And there you have it. That is a small clip of me playing on Twitch, and I have recently became a Twitch affiliate. Now, I'll be honest, you guys, none of this have been possible if it wasn't for your support. Your support and on Twitch and on my YouTube is the greatest thing, and thank you. I can't thank you enough. But if you want to go ahead and catch me live on Twitch, you can. I'll go ahead and leave in the description box below where you can go ahead and catch me and we can go ahead and chat live. Or if you're interested, you can go ahead and chat with me live on my Discord, and we have an amazing community built up, and you can go ahead and check out the channels that we have available. There's so much going on. It's still growing, but you know what? Come in, enjoy, mingle with people, and collaborate with others. Why not? Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and if you guys have enjoyed this video, do hit the subscribe button, and as always, hit the notification bell because that is when I go ahead and release my next videos. With all that said, this is 𝐒𝐶𝐏 signing off, and I'll see you guys next time, or maybe on the Discord or on Twitch.